Racket number 1, home ownership likely to rise due to an aging population in this country. This is an Inman article. They're referencing a study, and we'll link up the article as we always do. But when you and I both went through the article, we found it was more geared towards renters, not necessarily age.
Well, the photo was very misleading.
Well, the photo at the top
shows like Grandma Ann, like
Granny.
She's
doing
like
her thing. It's a beautiful ring she has.
You think?
Yeah.
I don't know. She's
got a ruby in it.
She's dusting.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope at her age I'm not ever dusting. But yeah, I mean, it sounded like it was a little misleading. It was actually extremely misleading. But yeah, no, it is mostly about renters and renters aging and percentage of home ownership, and do people still believe in it?
Let's start with where home ownership is today. Today it sits at 64.2%. Which economists at the New York Fed noted is very close to the longer run average in the 30 years between 1965 and 1995, or 1994 rather. The home ownership rate hovered around 64%, so basically where we are today, before, of course, going up in 95 to 2004 to more than 69%, but we know the influence there with all the mortgages, the housing crash, and subsequent. Do you think
subsequent?
I knew it was gonna get me.
We should just skip
reading
the word.
Too much on the real word.
You should have just skipped the.
So the housing crash and the recession knocked down the rate to 62% before it bounced back to where it is today.
So it's up like 2%.
So
what's that?
Basically, what they're saying is we're at a healthy rate from where we've been in the past, right? Now, when I was really excited for this article because I was like, you know what? The headline made a lot of sense to me.
Okay.
We have a rising population, but we also have people living longer. They didn't really get into that.
No, they didn't get into that actually at all.
No.
It was all about renters. It was all about, do renters still want to buy?
Right. And renters believing whether they can or cannot buy.
So it's a double-sided actually article because it's talking about obviously like millennials and youngers getting older, and then obviously like, you know, the baby boomers getting older too. So it's sort of like a burning on both ends.
When I look at the baby boomers, that's a huge population, right? And as they do get older and live longer, my gut, there's no data in this report, but my gut tells me a large percentage of them are going to tell their kids, screw you, I'm living in my house, I'm staying a homeowner, right? Like, you know, when you get a large population of people,
screw you.
There's going to be some stubborn, like, you know, maybe their kids like, hey, maybe you should rent, you know, let me get that money now. You know, maybe you should go into an old folks home.
If they're smart, they'll actually let their children have ownership of their homes, or they will lose their homes.
Right.
But that's a whole nother topic for
talk to your accountant on that.
Yeah.
I just believe there's going to be a lot of them that want to remain homeowners.
Sure.
And then you've got millennials that are moving out of being renters. And that's really what this article gets into. If you're interested in reading it, again, it'll be linked up. And moving into homeowners. So to me, that could create the perfect storm, as well as the transaction getting easier over the next decade. I believe that's going to happen.
Do you think, though, so it's interesting because I read an article recently about the rise in people wanting to actually age in place has grown. And you actually see a lot of contractors now offering the service of turning people's homes into more of a handicap-friendly home. So it's interesting to actually read this, but then also read articles that sort of contradict that a lot of people are going to want to stay in their current, you know, 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath colonials, but just like sort of, you know,
and I
manipulate it to work best for them.
I'm going to call this a racket because I question how much the homeownership rate will realistically go up. Remember, we're at all-time lows basically for our interest rate.
Right.
And that's not driving it up. And if you go on like a website, this is a Harvard website, if you go jchs.harvard.edu and look up the multifamily stats, there are so many reports, and this is talking about large commercial multifamily real estate in our country. There are so many reports that tend to believe that the aging population is going to start renting as they age out. So
it can go so many different ways. I think inventory has a lot to do with it, though, too, why people aren't buying. And it's
not buying the right thing, but the right product might be available and a rent.
Right. Well, in all honesty, most people, I feel like I'm pushing a lot of people in the rent way just because it allows them the ability to wait until the right house does come on.
Yeah.
Or they're just putting themselves in a much better buying position because they don't have to like sell in order to buy. I mean, there's so many advantages to renting. I do, though, across the board still see people, regardless of whether it's here or if they're going to be, you know, going south, like sort of where we're headed next, like most people do want to own. And that's
I
just
agree.
my own personal opinion. But
And
it's just super interesting, like all the different contradicting
6.5 out of
stories.
10 people today do own.
Mm-hmm.
Does it get back up to 7 out of 10? I don't know. It could. I'm going to call it a racket just because there's not a lot of data in this particular report that shows me why it would indeed rise. But, you know.
And I think it's a wreck because the photo has nothing to do with the article.
And maybe some of these old peeps will want, you know, some of the beautiful antique homes that we have in Connecticut. Nobody wants to tear these antique homes, by the way. This is just a little inside racket in between the two rackets. Nobody wants to tear down these antique homes.
But nobody has the money to fix them.
Nobody's got the money to fix them, but we just want to leave them here in New England up because they're so damn historical instead of building the product that
and
can
God
maybe.
forbid they have white cabinets and granite countertops.
Yeah.
I mean, for real.
It's 2019, people. It's not the 1700s.
No, because if that was true, then we wouldn't even have toilets.
Yeah.
I mean.
Oh, they didn't have toilets?
1850.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're literally, Nicole and I, here in these little shoreline New England towns in Connecticut, are literally selling homes pre-toilet. I didn't even know that. We should start putting that. Ness, MLS description. This home is pre-toilet.
Pre-toilet.